All right, so you've done the hard work. You've built a promising AI model. The code runs, the data's clean, but now, well, now comes the really hard part, making it actually work in the real world. So welcome. We're diving into the final 3 phases of the CPMAI methodology. This is the framework that takes you from a cool lab experiment to a genuine real-world asset. We're going from model to mission, and believe me, this is where the real value gets unlocked.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about that final stretch to value, what it really means to turn a pilot project into something that actually works in production. Then we're going to break down Phase 4, model development, followed by Phase 5, model evaluation, and then the big one, Phase 6, operationalization. And to wrap it all up, we'll walk through some real-world scenarios so you can see exactly how this all fits together.
You know, so many organizations are jumping into AI, but a ton of them get stuck right here, in this huge gap between a cool demo and an actual business return. It's a classic problem, and that's exactly why a structured methodology like CPMAI is so critical. It literally builds the bridge to get you from one side to the other, with clear steps and checkpoints along the way.
This question. This is the one that keeps AI teams up at night for sure. It is just so easy to get trapped in what we call proof of concept purgatory. You know, where a model looks absolutely perfect in a controlled lab setting, but it just can't handle the messiness of live real-world data. The CPMAI framework is your escape hatch because it forces you at every single stage to define and meet clear, evidence-based criteria before moving on. Okay, let's get into the first phase of this final stretch. Phase 4, model development. I want you to think of this as the workshop. We've got our clean, prepared data from Phase 3, and now it's time to roll up our sleeves and actually start building the engine for our AI solution. Now, the key thing to get here is you have to forget this idea of building one perfect model on your first try. It just doesn't happen. This phase is all about iteration. It's about experimentation. You're going to be running cycles, you're testing different algorithms, tweaking parameters, and basically building up a whole slate of potential model candidates to find the absolute best approach. Look, the success of this phase comes down completely to what you feed into it. It's classic garbage in, garbage out. First, of course, you need that clean, trustworthy data from the last phase. But just as important, maybe even more important, are your model requirements. What does success actually look like? How fast does it need to be? These aren't just nice-to-haves. They are the non-negotiable roadmap for this entire stage.
And what do you get at the end of all this? Well, it's not just a model file, that's for sure. Yeah, you get your trained model candidates, but you also get the performance benchmarks from all your experiments. And critically, you get the documentation. You have to write down why you made certain decisions. That's how you build trust and make sure the whole process is repeatable.
All right, so before anyone spends another dime or another minute on this, CPMAI forces you to take a critical pause. This is the big gatekeeping question. Does the model we've built actually show real promise? Is it genuinely viable, or are we just kind of pushing it forward because we've already come this far?
And this right here, this is a core discipline of CPMAI. It's the formal go/no-go assessment. If your model isn't hitting those baseline requirements, or if you suddenly realize you don't have the data or the skills you need to move forward, the process tells you to stop. And the right answer is to loop back and fix it, not to just push a flawed model down the line.
Now, you have got to watch out for these common traps, seriously. If you don't define what done looks like with crystal clear exit criteria, guess what? You'll never be done. If you don't write down the trade-offs you're making, like maybe sacrificing a tiny bit of accuracy for way better interpretability, no one's going to understand how the model behaves later on. This stuff is what separates professional AI development from just tinkering and hoping for the best.
So we have a viable model candidate. Awesome. But is it mission ready? That brings us to Phase 5, model evaluation. Think of this as the gauntlet. It's a series of really tough pre-flight checks before we would even think about going live.
The scope of evaluation here is so much broader than just technical accuracy. CPMAI demands that we test for fairness, for bias, for reliability. We have to be able to prove that the model's results are explainable and this is huge, that they align with both the business goals and the company's ethical principles.
The goal here is formal acceptance. You're using a super comprehensive evaluation plan and fresh, never-before-seen test data to generate the hard evidence you need for stakeholders to actually sign off. And the output is a clear, data-backed decision. Are we green for launch, or is it back to the workshop?
This is it.
This is your last major checkpoint before you commit to putting this thing into production. It's that final, honest gut check of whether this model can truly handle the unpredictable, messy nature of a live environment, and whether the business is ready to accept all the risks and responsibilities that come with it.
And yep, here we are again, at another formal go-no-go gate. And these questions are totally non-negotiable. Have we met every single evaluation criterion? Is the monitoring system built and ready to go? And do we have explicit, enthusiastic buy-in from all the key stakeholders? Passing this gate is the best insurance policy you have against a real-world failure. And let me tell you, these are the traps that can sink a project right before it crosses the finish line. A model can be 99% accurate and still deliver zero business value. If you haven't tested for bias, you could be deploying a massive reputational and legal risk. And if you don't have a plan for model drift, well, your model's performance is going to degrade over time. It's inevitable.
All right, we made it through the gauntlet. Now for the final phase, operationalization. This is it. This is liftoff. But let's be clear, the mission is far from over. Our job now shifts from building the rocket to running mission control.
It is so essential to understand that operationalization is not a one-time event. It's not just flipping a switch. It's a continuous life cycle. It includes that initial deployment, yeah, but it also covers the ongoing monitoring, having an incident response plan ready, and constantly tracking the actual value the model is delivering.
So in this phase, your whole focus shifts completely. The inputs aren't just data anymore. They're runbooks and playbooks that spell out exactly how to manage the system. And the outputs? A live model, of course, plus performance reports, and, this is so key, a value run rate that tracks the model's impact against the original business case. You are now proving its ongoing ROI.
Your job in Phase 6 can pretty much be summed up with one word: vigilance. You have to be vigilant against drift. Because the real world is always changing, your data and concepts are going to drift. You have to be able to detect it, have automated triggers for retraining, an incident response plan at the ready, build in feedback loops, and constantly track the ROI.
Okay, enough theory. Let's make this really, really practical. We're going to look at a couple of scenarios that you are almost guaranteed to face and see how these CPMAI phases guide you to the right answer.
So, first scenario. A team has a model that works, technically speaking, and you can feel the pressure from management to just deploy it already. CPMI discipline says, nope, hold on. You immediately recognize you are in Phase 5, model evaluation. So the correct next step isn't to deploy. It's to design and run that comprehensive evaluation plan. Done isn't when the code is in production. Done is when all the stakeholders have looked at the evidence and formally signed off.
Okay, scenario 2. You've got a model that's already in production, but its performance is slowly degrading. This is a classic Phase 6 operationalization challenge. Your monitoring system caught it, so the next step is to execute your playbook. You investigate for drift. And done in this case means your automated MLOps pipeline is retrained, validated, and deployed a brand new model to get performance back up where it should be. It's a planned, repeatable process, not some panic-driven fire drill.
And this brings us right to the ultimate question that you have to be asking. Look, getting an AI model into production is a huge achievement, but it is not the finish line. The entire point of a framework like CPMAI is to make sure you're not just launching projects, but that you are delivering measurable, sustainable value year after year after year. That, right there, is the only true measure of success.